Hi, I'm Maria Quattrone, and this is the Be the Solution podcast. And this morning, I welcome my guest, Jennifer Hammond. Welcome, Jennifer.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be with you today.
I wanted to be in a business that I did not have a ceiling. Take a pen and a piece of paper, draw a line, draw another line next to it. In 365 days, if you drew 365 lines, you started here with one line, but look how far you've come.
Jennifer, so glad to have you today.
Thank
Welcome.
you. And I love the name of your podcast, Be the Solution, because to me, that is the secret to being in real estate. I've had so many new agents say to me, oh my gosh, I got another problem. I'm like, love on that problem because you can now be the solution. So I love your title.
Thank you. So, you are the solution, Jennifer. You're with TTR Sotheby's International. And I know that you're licensed both in Virginia and Florida. So, you're a dual licensed agent and you work both markets pretty actively.
Yeah, so I'm actually licensed in Virginia, DC, and Maryland, all three of those jurisdictions. And now I'm licensed in Florida as well. And it's interesting to watch. All of them are different. They're so different. And for me, I love all the differences because it keeps me on my toes to know what's going on in those areas and the nuances of a market as you know right now. Oh my gosh, the market is changing and shifting, and you really need to be paying attention to all the indicators in a market to make sure you can advise your clients the best, whether it's a seller or a buyer, to really understand what's happening in that little, I want to say, that little part of the market, because everything is neighborhood by neighborhood, right?
Yeah. Yes, we're living in a hyper local real estate market at this point. You can't say what happening in Philadelphia County goes for all of Philadelphia County. Even the neighborhoods by neighborhood, it's by price point and
Right.
the little areas of a neighborhood. So it's a very interesting time. Um, and we'll walk through it and get through it like everything else.
Exactly. And it's interesting you said that. It's the micro neighborhoods, but it's also, again, this is where I want to say that your property, especially if you're selling, the market is much more sensitive than it's ever been before about any little flaws you have. Like if it's a 2-bedroom and it has 1 bath, and that market is looking for 2-bedroom, 2-bath, having the 2 suites. Or if it's a house, if it doesn't have parking, very different. And now is when those little nuances will really make a difference on not only if you sell it, but also how fast you sell it and for what price you sell.
Yikes, all those things. And it's our job to consult and get them ready for that, right?
Yeah, I think one of the most important things about being the solution for people is about really understanding that you need to help people set their expectations for what's going to happen for them. Because a lot of times they're watching the national news, and the national news, whatever they're saying about real estate, may or may not apply to their particular neighborhood and to their particular situation. So whether they're saying it's a red hot market, or whether they're saying, oh, the sky is falling and it's a terrible market, you need to know what's going on in your neighborhood. And that, to me, is so much about what we need to do as being the solution and advising our clients and setting their expectations so they're not disappointed. And so that they didn't think that one thing was going to happen and then something else is going to happen. I used to call that the Coca-Cola iced tea challenge. Because if you go to take a sip of your coffee or you go to take a sip of your Coca-Cola and you think it's Coca-Cola, you think it's going to have the buzz, that sugary and that all those bubbles, and then you take a sip and it's iced tea, and you're like, ew, it's flat Coca-Cola and it's not sweet. And then you realize, oh, it's just iced tea. And iced tea is good too, if you like both iced tea and Coca-Cola. But knowing what you're expecting and then getting it, I think, is really important as our job as real estate agents to set that expectation and help people feel comfortable that they know what's going to happen, because that unknown, ooh, it's the scariest thing.
The unknown. And we walk through the unknown every single day. And if we haven't learned the lesson yet from the pandemic and COVID, right?
Yeah.
Because that was an unknown. But in fact, it's an unknown daily. We don't
Yep.
know. And I say all the time, the only thing that we can control is the actions that we take today to be the solution and to move things forward. So I gave that little message this morning on. I'd use voice memos on Slack to my office
Yeah.
and our organization. I'm sending messages about, you know, it, people are waiting for your call. They're open to you. They're not resistant of you. So go ahead and help them, because if they don't get your help, they may end up in a bad situation. So it's an interesting way to look at it
And I think
versus
you're so right. I mean, it's so important. They need you, and not to think that they don't want your call. They want your call and they need your call.
they want it and they need it. And I think a lot of times, sales people, just in general, not just in real estate, they become paralyzed by all the other stuff happening, right? And all the nonsense and rhetoric. And so it's our job is in leadership roles is to be that calming voice, the one that is going to be the guide. I say that I'm the guide for them.
Yeah.
It's a little bit different, than, the director of sales or the trainer. Those things are great too, but being a guide is a little bit different. It's like you have to find your own way, right? Because if we bring it to them and force the situation, that usually doesn't work anywhere, right?
Right. I was going to say, and that's one of the things I've learned is also, as you said, being the guide is giving them a choice. Like this morning, right before we started this, I had a client call me, and she's in a situation where she's in an HOA where there's violations, but the violations that she is being charged with are on the neighbor's shared wall. And so she needs to get an agreement with the neighbor. And the neighbor's like, oh, I don't care about those violations. And she was like, what do I do? And this is talk about when you need to be the solution. So I go, okay, so let's brainstorm. What could you do? And let's figure out ways that you can solve this. And so as you're coming up with those solutions, in my opinion, you should always be that advisor that gives different options. You can do nothing. You can do it yourself. You can negotiate with the HOA. You can go ahead and call the neighbor again and talk to the neighbor again. So just deciding on what can you do to, again, be the solution and figure out a way that they have choices so they don't feel trapped, that there is nothing they can do about it, because that's the worst feeling.
Yeah, for sure. So I want to take a step back for a moment, Jennifer. So tell me how you got into the industry.
Wow, it's so interesting because I went through college and I studied all the way through my master's degree in public administration. My idea was I wanted to help people, and so I wanted to work in government. So I have a master's in public administration, and I went to Washington, D.C. to work for a congressman from Florida, and I lasted 6 months on
Well,
Capitol Hill.
that's 5 months and 30 days more than I would have lasted. So
Yeah, I didn't do so well. And part of it was I felt like I was always spinning my wheels. Like I wasn't really getting anything done, and I wasn't really helping anyone. And I was like, this is just no fun. And for me, I wanted to have a purpose in life where I really helped people. And that was the reason I thought going into government, I was really going to make a difference. I was going to change the world. I was wide-eyed and innocent at 20, early 20s. And so I actually worked for the House in the House office building. And I walked across the street to the Library of Congress. Library of Congress, ironically, most people don't realize, is a couple buildings. But I went to the main building, and they have this beautiful dome. It's a gold dome reading room. And in there, they also have all of these books on different careers. So I sat down with, I think I hate to admit, tears in my eyes as I sat there and confessed my absolute distraught with the librarian there, who was so sweet. And she said, well, now that now I'm sitting in a whole bunch of student loan debt. Student loan debt. And I don't want to do the career that I've just spent all these years in college to learn how to do. And so we started going through careers, and she just took all these books out, and we started looking, and we got all the way down to R in real estate. I was like, real estate? I've always wanted to learn real estate, and I always wanted to be a real estate investor. And I thought, well, I don't know how to be a real estate investor, so let me just see if I could be a real estate agent and what that would take. And so, of course, I bounced out of the Library of Congress, super excited. And sure enough, I went down and I got my real estate license in Washington, D.C., and started helping people. And for me, the interesting part was I wanted to help first-time home buyers, because I was a first-time home buyer and I wanted to learn how to do it really well. So I learned in Washington, D.C. back then, that was over 25 years ago, I went ahead and found that there was first-time home buyer programs for your down payment. There was a first-time home buyer program for your closing costs. And at the time, there was also a program that gave you, I think it was $10,000 just cash. It was an amazing program. And so what I did is I put all those programs together so I could buy, because I didn't have the cash at the time. And then I loved teaching people how they could do it, because when you first get out of college, you fit into those, the income parameters for that. And it was so fascinating. And again, then I got addicted, to being able to change someone's life with one transaction. I mean, it was amazing. And so then I just got super excited, and I love, just like you, I love the education, and I love being a leader. I love teaching other real estate agents how to be better. Every day we know we can be a little bit better, but I also just love educating my clients on what's happening and how they can make good decisions in real estate. And so even though I have a master's degree in a completely different field, and I don't use that master's degree, I don't regret having done all that college, but I realized that you have to follow something you truly love, and then you never will work a day in your life. You really will have fun, and it will be something that you get out of bed and get excited about doing. And I think anytime I know that I'm going to help people, I know I made the right decision going into real estate.
That's awesome. So how many years has it been now?
25 years. Woohoo!
25 years. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Well done.
Yay!
You've experienced and walked through a lot of different markets and things. And this coming one will be, I don't know what it's going to be like, but it'll be interesting.
Well, and you're so right, because it's interesting. I saw some of the indicators, even 6 months ago, that this market was going to start to change. And then 3 months ago, and then this month, we've had the interest rate hikes, and there's just so much that is changing. And as we talked about before we started today, I think that every market is, we're seeing very different things in the market, and what consumers, what buyers are willing to spend money on, and how much money they're willing to spend. All of those indicators, it's so important to pay attention. To me, this is when it is such a blessing to be curious. And so just constantly be curious about what's happening in your neighborhood. Where are the new grocery stores going in? Where are the new commercial restaurants or shopping? What's happening? And also, where is the government putting the money into each neighborhood? Or are they withdrawing? Like, are the grocery stores pulling out? I've seen grocery stores go away, which I thought, oh my gosh, after this whole pandemic, I didn't think you'd ever have a grocery store go away. And yet I'm seeing grocery stores go away. So what is happening? And even little, we've seen so much with restaurants and sandwich shops, and the whole commercial side is changing, and we just need to pay attention to all of the things that are happening, because all those changes are going to affect us in the residential real estate market so much. It's very important to be paying attention to those changes.
Absolutely, because we don't live in a vacuum. Everything is entwined, and we're all entwined, right?
Yes.
It's all part of, I don't know, some big master plan that's out there. Something like that. So I'd like to ask you a couple questions about,
Yeah.
your business. What would you say, like, your top three things you do in regards to marketing?
So number one is I always try to stay in touch with my clients in a very personal way. And what I mean by that is I love to go by and see them. So for me, I go by and see my old clients, either, let's meet for coffee, or I go by and see their house. I like to actually make that personal touch of keeping in touch with them. And so I think that going by and seeing people physically, and also just seeing if they've made any changes or updates to the house, or in Washington, D.C., we have a lot of people with condos, but a lot of times they may change a paint color, and so I always go by and actually visit them. And it's funny, it took me a while to realize that is a marketing activity, because I just love people. So I love to go see them.
So you're doing like pop-bys and things like that.
Yeah, I just popped by. Like I just went by someone's house. What was that? Just a couple days ago, and she's fun. She loves afternoon tea, and so we had this amazing ginger apricot tea. And she's funny because I said I wanted to stop by and just see you for an hour or so. Would that be okay? And I text messaged her, and sure enough, she's like, yes. And so sure enough, she has the tea and everything set up on the table. And then she made this amazing lemon coffee cake. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is so much fun. And we just had a wonderful, lovely visit to see kind of just what's going on in her life. And from that, it's amazing how many clients go, I actually know somebody who's thinking about buying or thinking about selling. Would you give them a call? And so number one is really just showing people that you care. And I think that's so important. Number two, I love to email people with specifics about the market. So I do a newsletter that goes out once a month, and I love to make sure that people are up to date with kind of what our viewpoint is, because you can see the media sometimes has the doom and gloom of the world is falling apart and the sky is falling and everything's horrible. And so I think sometimes I always just want to make sure that I send out the monthly newsletter and allow people to hear some good news, but also invite them to contact me if they're interested in finding out more. So I think the newsletter is something that, again, it's just once a month, but it's, again, keeping in touch with people and letting them know what's happening. And then number three probably is my social media marketing, including my podcast, the Jennifer J. Hammond podcast. And I love to make sure that people are, again, up to date on what's the latest stuff and hearing the conversations that we're having, just like you said about being the solution when there are confusion times. You want to have somebody that you know, like, and trust to be able to ask those questions to. And so I love my podcast and the social media lives and the things that we do on that to really help answer the questions. It's so important. I'm doing one on short-term rentals, and I have investors who are like, is this the time? Should I be doing short-term rentals? And I'm like, well, I want to tell you the good, the bad, and the ugly of short-term rentals, because guess what? It's not always great. When you thought the short-term rentals could never fail, and then there comes a pandemic, and nobody wants to travel, and nobody wants to stay in a home that they don't know if it's, there's so much confusion out there. So I love making sure that people have the education and the knowledge that they need. And so my podcast, of course, does that. And then we do Facebook Lives and YouTube Lives and all that kind of stuff. So just making sure that we keep getting that knowledge out there so that people can make good decisions. So those are my three top marketing tips for you.
I love it. I love it. They're all very different, and they all provide a result. A result is a client and a buyer, a seller, an investor. So 25 years in the business, I'm sure that you've worked with lots of different types of people. Who's your favorite type of client?
I know it's like lots of extra work to answer this, but I love, well, I should say two. I'm split on it because one, I love the first time home buyer because they're eager to learn. And then when you actually give them, I always call it affectionately homework assignments, they go and they read, they listen, they actually do their homework, and then they really appreciate all that you do. So I love, love, love first time home buyers. But I can say the other, when I say there's a split decision there, who's my favorite client, it's also investors. I love investors because they'll sit down and they'll analyze the numbers. And when they analyze the numbers, you're like, so now you can see why, if you look at all these indicators, you analyze the numbers, this is how you can make sure that you are, hedging your bets, that you're really looking at it in a logical way. And when you do that, it's beautiful. Again, I love the response. They, like a first-time home buyer, when they have made a good decision, and then I love being invited back 2 or 3 years later and seeing not only the appreciation, but how they've really learned how to be a homeowner and take advantage of all the wonderful blessings that are there for a homeowner. It's such a rewarding thing. Talk about, why did I get into real estate? It was to help people make good decisions in real estate. And I love, love, love helping people be, I say, a little more educated, a little more educated, a little more knowledgeable about real estate. And I love real estate investors for that same reason. Is I love making sure that we're helping them know everything they need to know so that they can make good decisions in real estate investing. So it's kind of a split decision, but I love both of those as my favorites.
So you're working on the investment side. Are you working with new construction, rehabbers, or like just multifamily investors, or buying single family homes to invest in? What do you specialize in?
So it's a little bit of all of those. So one, it's multifamily. So I love the big apartment complexes, and those numbers, looking at the cap rates and all that, that is so super fun. And it's a great, right now, those are great investments, but I also have some amazing investors who love industrial. So they love, everything from a parking lot to storage units. So that one's really fun, again, because it's just numbers. You're just like, you just look through the numbers and see if this is something that's going to work for them. But when I started, I worked mostly, because I also did rehabbing myself. So I used to buy, renovate, and flip. And I don't do that so much anymore, but I know that business so well. So I have those people who are looking for it. And like, because you've been in it long enough to know, the market, there's always a deal in the market if you look hard enough. It's just a matter of how patient you're going to be and what techniques you're going to use to find those. Because again, sometimes, in a market that's really hot, finding the really great deal, it takes more time, it takes more effort, it takes more diligence, and again, not getting upset and frustrated when it doesn't work out really right away. So
You
knowing
make
all
your
that.
money. I say you make your money on the buy.
Yep.
Your money's all made on the buy. So buy right.
Yep.
Right. And then also, if you can buy properties right, like zoning, buy right, this can build 14 single family homes or 20 apartments, or I love commercial real estate. So
Yeah.
that's my jam.
Oh, is it? Oh, yeah. Commercial is just so much fun because, again, it's all those numbers. And what you just said is one of the secrets that so often people don't know is understanding the zoning, including, what is grandfathered in and what is not.
Exactly.
Because that could be your profit margin right there, is just understanding the zoning.
Yep. Or not getting it done at all. In fact, everybody thinks just because you invest in real estate, you make money. In fact, sometimes you lose a lot of money.
Yep.
And that's why it's called investing. And there's risk involved. There's risk involved in all of it. So this is like what do you question? What do you enjoy most about what you do?
Helping people. I love helping people, whether it's an investor helping make a good decision. I love actually being able to help somebody and help somebody really understand it. Like what you just said about the zoning side of it, it's so interesting when someone doesn't understand the zoning. Like I said, I just had somebody who recently is like, that's it. I want to do short-term rentals and I want to get, as many as possible. And I said, okay, so let's sit down. And so I sat down and I gave him like three specific things of homework. And it was so interesting because I can tell when someone is really serious about doing it, that they will do the homework, including, one of the things was, so I need you to fully understand the regulations in this area that you want to invest about short-term rentals. What do you have to do for sales tax? What do you have to do for the zoning? The business license you have to get? There's all those aspects of it. And you have to really understand that and be willing to do all of that accounting, be willing to get the business license, be willing to get all the legal things you need to have in place. You have to have all of that there. And when you have that there, then you're going to be able to be successful. So if you can't do those first couple steps, then I already know you're not going to be able to go on to the next. So I'm not just going to take you out and let you buy something. It's almost like, putting someone who is not ready to ride a bicycle on a bicycle and just let them fall over. I want to make sure you got your training wheels on and you've done your basic foundational stuff. And to me, that is the most fun about real estate, is really helping people understand real estate to the point where they can easily make those decisions and they'll go forward and they will do well. Not that they will, that I just sold them a property. A closed property is not enough for me. The thing that makes it fun, the thing that makes it exciting is when someone really understands it so that they can actually go into action and do something that is not only productive, but it is financially rewarding to them.
Well, that's what it's all about. It's not just one, it's both, right? We want both. We want both.
Yeah, we want both.
I want to work with people that are happy and that, like me and that we can be friends. And if we can't do that, and I'm not really interested at this point in my career. Right?
I think that's true of all of the relationships. Just like, I loved having you as a guest on my show, and I love having, being able to be a guest on your show. I think it's really about the relationship, is being able to continue to find ways that we can help each other and be a resource for each other, be a solution for each other.
Be the solution. So talking about be the solution, books. I love books. Do you love books?
I love books. I was just, oh my gosh. Yeah, I have so many awesome books that I constantly are reading new books. It's so funny because I have so many books. I'm sorry. What were you going to ask me?
So what are your favorite 3 or one that you're reading now?
So I'm actually going to look at because at this point, I have really gotten to the point where I love Audible. It's probably my favorite way. So I am reading a Grant Cardone book right now. If you're not first, you're last. Have you read any of Grant Cardone's stuff?
I read the one about 10X or sold. No. It's a red book. It says sold on it.
Sold or be sold.
Yes. I gave it away to a client who is no longer a client anymore. Had to fire his butt. But I don't take like nonsense going on, shenanigans, like, who's the real owner of these properties. Anyway, so I never got the book back. So I'm going to have to go, and I'm going to go on Amazon today and I'm going to buy it.
You should. I love Grant Cardone's stuff because, again, the way he wrote it, so many of his books are from a while ago, 10 years ago even. And but the stuff is just absolutely, it's so powerful to understand that we can always be a little bit better. No matter how good we are, we can always be a little bit better. And I think about that in every aspect of your life. Physically, we can always exercise a little more. We can always get a little better. Eating wise, as a client, working with client relations, how can we be a little bit better? And I think that that's always part of it. In this universe, one of the universal principles is we're either getting better or we're getting worse.
Yes.
Never stay the same.
Yes. Yes.
Never. And I think that's a really critical thing, is understanding how can you continue to be in the upward motion, getting better and better and better, versus not, and even in real estate, that's one of the principles I talk about a lot with my clients, is that, if you're looking at a neighborhood and you're trying to analyze, is this neighborhood one I want to invest in, or is this the neighborhood that I should stay away from? What does it mean? Well, guess what? There's indicators there of it's either getting better or it's getting worse. It's not staying the same. And it may be at a slow, gradual time, because sometimes it's happening fast and then other times it's happening slower. But every single neighborhood is also doing the same thing, that we as a person, we're either getting better or we're getting worse.
So true.
Yeah. We
So
need to
true.
focus on that.
Yes. So the top three books.
So number one is If You're Not First, You're Last by Grant Cardone. And then I'm actually reading a really cool book by Nelson Nash. It's called Becoming Your Own Banker. Becoming Your Own Banker. And it's very much about understanding how to handle money. And it's really important. I know this is one of those weird offshoots, but I have my life insurance license in Florida. And I've learned learning how to use life insurance, especially as a real estate investor, is extremely powerful to understand all the ins and outs and how you can borrow against your own money. You become your own bank, and then you can borrow against your own money. So that one's a phenomenal book. And then
I read that. I need to read that.
You should read it. Becoming Your Own Banker. It's by R. Nelson Nash. And I've actually listened to that one twice now, but I'm in the middle of it again, because it's a really, really good book. And then I have another really cool book. So my number 3 book is, I love this book. Now, this is an interesting one because it's about every one of us, and it's called The Hero's 2 Journeys. So The Hero's 2 Journeys and it's funny, it's actually a gentleman who he talks about Shrek and so many of the classic Star Wars, all the different movies we have. And there's always 2 journeys going on with the hero. There's kind of an inner journey and there's an outer journey that's happening. And so understanding that, you can also understand your own journey, even when you want to express it to others. And I think it's so important that we all understand that we all have a journey that we're on, all of us. It's so important to be able to recognize that, but also to really be able to articulate that when people ask you about, what is your journey and why are you on it? Because I think the more that we understand our purpose in life, like I know my purpose is to help others understand real estate better so they can make good decisions in real estate. But everybody needs to know what their purpose is, because the more you connect with that. I just talked to, here's an example. I just talked to a person who moved down from Washington, D.C. down to Florida, and so excited to become a real estate agent. And so she's been studying and studying and studying. And she took the 2-week class. And then at the end of the class, you have to get a 70 score or higher to pass. And she got a 67.
Oh.
And she was so upset about it. And I said, you need to, and she was so discouraged. And I said, so that means that you don't really understand it. So now is time to just have fun with it. Let's make yourself some cards and do flashcards and make it fun. And think about it that you are the person who's going to help educate someone else. So you have to understand it so well that, your goal isn't to get a 70. Your goal is to get 100. Your goal is to know it so much that, again, as you have like the book I'm reading, The Hero's 2 Journeys, your inner journey is also about yourself. how well do you know this so well that you can actually teach it to somebody else? You know, the Native Americans, I study a lot with the Native Americans, and they talk about, you don't really know something until you can teach it to someone else.
Mm. Mm.
And I
So
think
many,
that's part of your journey.
so many great little nuggets there. I love that book, The Hero to Journey. What an interesting concept. There's something going on in your inner self and outer self. But I actually, I know that, but I never thought about it like that. So I love that, Jennifer.
You're welcome.
This is a great podcast. So many great things. And I know you do that on yours. Yeah.
Yay!
It's cute. It's a cute little thing that you do.
Thank
Wow,
you.
this was an amazing talk today. And
Well, thank
you
you.
are just full of all kinds of information and very knowledgeable, obviously, about real estate. So you definitely are an expert in your field. So congratulations for continuing to be and continue to grow into the best version of yourself. I see that's very important to you. I love it. I love it. I'm blessed and grateful to have you on the Be the Solution podcast today. Thank you so much for the joining us and spending some time with us.
It was such a pleasure. And thank you for doing this. And thank you so much for, I mean, I love everything from your title, Be the Solution, because I think that gives people a goal too, to be the solution and not worry and not shy away from a problem. Just love that problem. And think about entrepreneurs. Some of the most wealthy entrepreneurs, the most successful, are the ones that went, wow, that problem is wonderful. And then they solved it and they created something. So just think about it that way. And I'm so grateful that you actually have created this particular podcast. And thank you so much for having me as a guest.
Yeah, my pleasure.